Back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. And I was kind of getting on a roll there in the last segment, finishing up. And I think the point I was trying to get at is I find it incredibly frustrating that there are people who are in charge at this point, particularly in the current administration, business leaders, whatever it may be, that are pushing an agenda, particularly with the energy policy, that just makes no logical sense whatsoever. We should have an all-of-the-above approach, diversify our grid, diversify our energy supply. That diversification is what makes it strong. Each has its own strengths and weaknesses. No one can deny that. And that would be the best for the American people. That would be best for the country. That would be best for our economy. Yet they refuse to do so. They refuse to allow natural gas or oil exploring. Blech, getting my tongue tied there. Apologize. They refuse to do those things, and then they push on all kinds of hindrances for drilling permits or pushing this ESG investment, drying up the investment dollars for fossil fuel energy supplies and things like that. And they're doing it. I've shared so many times because they see they're either like a cult member that it's like a religion to them, this green energy, or there's more commonly I find when you really dig into it is there's an personal economic benefit. They're getting money for it, or they're heavily invested in green energy, like our current energy secretary Janet Granholm. That's the problem. And the other part of it is that frustrates me, and I started sharing this in the last segment, was that how do they, or we, or anyone for that matter, know that in the next decade or 2 or 10, however long it takes, that the current, let's say, solar and wind become the primary energy sources at that point? We don't know that. In other words, go back 20 years, 30, 50 years. Think about the technology that we had at that point, compared to today. Could anyone dream of a cell phone you're carrying in your hand, for example, a handheld device that has more power in it than the first supercomputers had? Okay? I mean, I'm old enough to remember a time when, you had a dial-up rotary phone, right? And many of you listening know what I'm talking about. It wasn't that long ago. In other words, I believe in human ingenuity. And if we would just allow that to be released instead of these agendas that these people are pushing and shoving down our throats, causing economic chaos and just economic pain for people all over the world. Yet they don't care. They're making their money, right? They've got their own. It would be so nice. And this was an interesting conversation I had with somebody recently. So I was getting my hair cut over the weekend. And she was a new hairdresser my wife had found. She really liked her, wanted me to go and go there and check her out. And she was very nice, did a great job. Recently from California, Northern California. She'd been owned a business there, hair business, obviously, for 15 years. And they shut her down due to COVID and all that. And so she had to leave. She closed up shop, came to Arizona, opened up, and had to start over after building a business for 15 years. That's life-changing. That kind of upheaval is the stuff that these people are causing because of their agenda. Whether it's COVID, they want control, they want money, they want, whether it's green energy, whatever it is. The reason doesn't matter. The end result does. And I remember she said something. She asked me what I did for a living. We got talking, and I shared with her the radio show I do, and she was very interested. And I said to her one thing. I said, the one thing I'm frustrated about is lived here in Arizona for a long time, and it's changing. She was, she'd already noticed that she'd only been here a year. I said, just welcome to Arizona, but if you came from California, but please do us all a favor. Remember why you left and vote accordingly. It's the Democrat agenda, primarily, that caused the mess that you left in California. Please don't bring it here. And unfortunately, There's not enough people listening yet. And it looks like for the first time that I can remember, we're going to have 2 Democratic senators and a Democratic governor. And I'm not happy about that because they've already expressed some of their agenda. They want to turn Arizona into more like California. And frankly, that's the last thing that I want. Personally, we're going to keep a close eye on it because this has been a great place to live, great place to raise a family. But if it starts changing too much, we may have to leave. I'm sad to say that, but we're going to watch and see over the next couple of years. Now, the thing is, so I sharing these things with her. She agreed completely. She goes, yeah, I'm with you 100%. Don't need to worry about me. I lost my business. That's why I came here, and I don't want to see that happen again because of too much government interference. And she said, I'm with you 100%, but I'm a person who likes to do things. This just confirms what I was already feeling, but what can we do about it? And then as I shared with her, I said, the reason I do this show is to educate. And the solution to all this is get more people to stop being closet conservatives and share and be open about how they feel about things and open up the public discourse, talking. I said, I've been given the nickname by some people as the town crier. I was just one of those that, I just refused to shut up. And I was one of the early ones, okay? I started talking about this in April of 2020, all right? So now there's more avenues. I mean, Twitter's been taken over by Elon Musk. There's more freedom of expression back, and I think we'll see more and more things go forward. But there was a time period where they were really trying to shut things down, of course. But I said, if people start connecting the dots, realizing that, look, if our government shuts down not just the Keystone Pipeline, but 9 others, they shut down 10 pipelines, folks. That's the facts. You don't hear it in the media very much, but if you educate yourself a little bit and you think about it and realize, if 10 pipelines are shut down so oil can't be transported from like Canada to where it's needed, the end users, us, you think that might cause gas prices to go up? Do you think that might cause basic economics 101, supply and demand, shortage of supply, and creates higher prices? It's that kind of thing. Do you think that maybe we have a energy secretary that all she talks about is EVs and then sells 1.5 million shares of options in an EV company she owns? You think there might be a connection there? And she goes, you're right. People need to be educated more. They need to pay attention more. And I said, the reason why I believe that things happened in this past midterms, which was extremely disappointing on many levels, is it just wasn't bad enough yet for enough people. And unfortunately, things are probably going to get worse. I've shared that in the first few segments and some of the economic things that seemed like we're headed to. It's like a Titanic headed to the iceberg, but the captain refuses to change direction, right? My point is simple, is if more people start paying attention and connect the dots, as she put it, put 2 and 2 together, they're going to vote differently. And I said, here's the good news. We don't need to get everybody. We don't need to convince everybody and educate everyone. We just need 51%. And right now, the country is very much 50-50. I mean, that's pretty obvious. So we just get 1%, 1 out of 100 people, to take the red pill, as they call it, recognize that, okay, I'm not a huge fan of the Republicans myself. I consider myself an independent, but I also recognize they're not the problem. The Democrat, particularly in the last 2 years, Democrat policies are the cause of the problem. And let's get as many conservative thinking Republicans in there we can and try to change that party. I mean, it's got some problems too, but at least try to change its direction to move it in the right direction. And some things I've been seeing on there. Oh, one last thing I'll share. CEOs are pessimistic. I shared this earlier, heading into the new year. But my response, and I've seen some of that, many of those corporate leaders were the idiots that helped support getting Biden into office in the first place. So on one hand, I agree with them. I think they're right. On the other hand, how can you be so short-sighted? And maybe a lot of people just didn't believe Biden would do what he's done, his policies. He's been far more lefty than I even thought. But I think it's kind of naive to think that the Democrats weren't going to push I mean, Biden, he said it on the campaign trail. He was going to shut down, no more drilling and all that. He said it again recently even, okay? And he's followed through. To his credit, he's followed through. Maybe they didn't believe he was going to actually do it, but, sometimes you got to listen to what actually someone says. Sometimes they actually do what they say. It's amazing. So, but here's something that was kind of heartwarming to me. One of the GOP rep, he's a rep elect. He's going to be in Congress, and he put it out. He says Congress needs a come to Jesus moment on spending, and he's absolutely and totally right. It's Mike Lawler. He said, both parties have been guilty of spending far too much money, particularly in the last decade or so, last couple decades, and they need to stop the funding. They need spending, and thankfully, this divided Congress will be positive in that regard. Hopefully, there'll be less spending. But again, we have some people call them squishy rhinos that may go along with some of the spending with the Democrats and get some stuff through that shouldn't go through. We need fiscally responsible people in office who will follow through. We need to vote those kinds of people in. We need to educate people, help them understand that this spending hurts everyone. Even if you're getting money from the government, the inflation hurts you. Okay? The government doesn't have any money. It can't give you any money unless it takes it from someone else or prints more, which causes inflation. Okay? Which again hurts everybody. And at that message, that's the message that needs to be shared and shared and shared, or we're just going to continue down the path and it'll just get worse, okay? So the last thing I guess I want to share and think about is, I've shared this a few times. This year is no secret. 2022 has been a rough year for the stock market. And looks like from every indication, this is from the Federal Reserve even, they're expecting, Federal Reserve of Dallas now says that they expect another 15 to 20% drop in real estate values across the country based on the higher interest rates and high inflation. And personally, I think that's a conservative estimate. We will see what happens. Yes, there's a shortage of housing in some places, but then there's also just a flat-out affordability issue as inflation continues to eat at people's savings, their income, earnings, all of that, okay? There's, you can't get blood out of a turnip, as they say. So as I started this, so I think that's the next, it's already starting to drop from the peaks. We've seen in Arizona, Phoenix here, which was one of the biggest run-ups, we saw on average, about a 67% increase on average over the previous 2 years. And from the peaks of this summer, we've already seen as much as 15-20% reduction from the peaks. And I think it's very realistic to expect another 15-20% or more before this is all said and done. We'll find out. We'll see what happens. But that's what the experts are saying. That's what history tells us. That's what my eyes are telling me, okay? Like I said in the first segment, we have positive arbitrage today. We got 6%. Insured, guaranteed, tax-free with high liquidity. You can have up to 85% of your money day one. So when this economic calamity, whatever you want to call it, does pass, you can have funds of dry powder to reallocate and take advantage of the opportunities that are coming. They are coming. I don't believe they're here yet, but I do believe they're coming. So stockpiling cash somewhere safe, get some dividends on it, just makes sense. Contact me at toll-free 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. Again, that's 866-268-4422, and it's on our money. In God we trust.
For more information on Your Personal Bank, feel free to contact Ference at yourpersonalbank.com. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guest on this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Products and riders may have limitations and may not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage.